young woman was killed in a domestic violence incident outside the Citadel Mall in West Ashley just last week. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down one-on-one with local domestic violence advocate Davida Johnson one-on-one. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And listen to this interview next week on iHeartRadio. Davida Johnson. It's so good to see you again here on Quintin's Close-Ups.
Yeah, it's good seeing you too.
Anytime. I brought you back because it's something very important to talk about right now, and you know a lot about, and that is domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're a domestic violence advocate, and you're a celebrity hairstylist here in Charleston. Mm-hmm. But let me take you to domestic violence. Obviously, you know all about that because your particular family actually was involved with domestic violence 3 years ago, and just recently you received justice.
Yes.
How do you define justice when it comes to domestic violence and your family?
I would say seeing the person get what they deserve. I believe that he deserves a certain time away from society, away from us, and he'll be away for a pretty long time, 60 years. I think that's justice, because I will never see my sister again, and his family, his daughter, will never see their brother, their father again, and that's justice. I feel like that's equal.
You talk about your sister and obviously losing her 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What is that letter you would write to her right now if you could?
I would say that I love you, and that I wish you knew how beautiful that you were, and that you didn't need a man to validate that for you, that you had me, you had your dad, you had all of us, you had your friends to let you know how beautiful that you were, and that if you ever needed anything, you definitely should have came to me, and we would have been sitting here together eating probably on a Saturday, So I would definitely remind her how much I love her.
Why does love hurt?
I think love hurts because people don't know how to express it. When people get upset, relationships, they're not all perfect. There's going to be some disagreement, and sometimes people disagree and they don't know how to contain themselves. They don't know how to express themselves, and sometimes that results in violence. Sometimes it hurts with hurtful words, and many people don't know that. And I think the main thing that people need to do is get counseling, getting that therapy, and being seen, knowing that they have an issue, especially with men, have a controlling issue. They need to see someone. And I know Charlamagne the God, he wrote a book called Shook One. And he talks about how many people need therapy, and just to go try it out, just to see how it works. And I know that he said when he doesn't have therapy, his wife would say, "Did you go to therapy this week?" And he said, "You know what, I'm sorry I didn't make it." And I think that everyone should try therapy to see how they like it and to see how their partner likes it. And I think that's what helps love not hurt.
Obviously, we had a tragedy here in Charleston just recently with a young woman, 23 years old, I believe, was killed outside of the Citadel Mall parking lot in an alleged domestic violence issue. Mm-hmm. When you go back to February 26th to right now, what is the biggest thing that plays in your mind about this particular incident?
The biggest thing is disappointment, but I'm not shocked because it happens so much around us in South Carolina. 1 in 4 women are killed, so it's not like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. It's just the fact that I'm hurt that happened, and I'm hurt for her family. I'm hurt for his family. And I think that if they received the help that they needed, then they would have gotten it. It would never led to that day, February 26th. It would have never happened, and it's just unfortunate.
If I had a whiteboard right behind me, whatever statistics would you pin on that board when it comes to domestic violence in South Carolina?
I'll put 1 in 4 women have been killed. Well, I'm sorry. 1 in 4 women have experienced domestic violence. In South Carolina, we are number 6 in the country, and we've been in the top 10 for the last 10 years. And according to the South Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence, we have made some changes, though. We're doing a little better, but I think we could do much better. I know one of the changes was that police were the ones representing women in court for domestic violence, and now they changed it to prosecutors being able to represent women in protecting their rights in the case of domestic violence.
What are those hidden facts when it comes to a relationship that people should know about?
The hidden facts, the fear that the woman faces,
Okay.
that financial dependence. Most women, well, I know that I have a client right now who's going through domestic violence, and she makes her own money. He doesn't really make any money though, but he tells her some good things one day, and he tells some hurtful things the next. He pushes her down, she gets back up, and he says, "I'm sorry." So that switch that happens, it needs to change. Like, one day you're mad at me, one day you hate me, and one day you love me. And for me, I need constant love. I think all women need constant love. If you don't want to talk to me, if you're mad at me, then let's just talk it out. Let's get therapy. And therapy and counseling are like the main factors in domestic violence that kind of helps the women know their full worth, and kind of helps the guy to really understand how to contain his anger.
And I know you probably heard the details as well, but there's some very telling details in the incident that really led up to the death of the young lady at Citadel Mall. Mm-hmm. When you look at that information right now, what stands out to you when it comes to this incident with the woman outside of Citadel Mall being shot and killed?
What stands out to me is the fact that she was victimized in January, and the police were called. She didn't want him to get arrested. And of course, because of the new South Carolina state laws, anytime that police are dispatched for domestic violence, a person has to be taken into custody. And that night, January, she didn't want him to get arrested. She just wanted the police to know what happened, I believe. And he was arrested. I don't think he spent a day in jail, came back out, and I guess they went back to the relationship in February. It got worse, and he ended up killing her. And I think that what needed to happen from January 4th all the way to that date in February is that he needed counseling. She needed counseling. She needed to get through her victimization, because also that she was beaten. She had a black eye. If she had counseling, if she was seen by someone to really let her know her full worth, she would never went back to that relationship. That was a toxic relationship. And if he had the right counseling, how to manage his anger, how to talk to women, how to treat women, if that was mandated, I don't think that would have happened recently. I think she would have still been alive, and he would have never been in jail.
Obviously, you used to be a former law enforcement official. Mm-hmm. If you were to go up to Columbia and testify in front of the state senate or the House of Representatives on some sort of committee or panel, what would you look in their eyes and say right now?
I'd say that we need to be stricter on domestic violence. We do not need to take this lightly. I've seen a lot. I learned a lot, and I think that law enforcement also need to work diligently with handling domestic violence cases. Because when we had my sister's case, when we were in trial, there are some areas that some of the law enforcement officers made. One was almost not Mirandizing the guy before taking him into custody. Now, had they not did that, he would have just walked out. But they did do that. But that doesn't happen in all cases. And there was another situation that happened where the coroner didn't have her facts right, and that made it look like he didn't do it. So I think that law enforcement also needs to take domestic violence cases, very lightly. They need to take it very seriously. They need to take it very seriously and make sure they have all their facts before presenting it to the prosecutors and presenting their information in the court. Because any information that's misconstrued or misinterpreted or anything that's taken out of context can be thrown out, and the person could be innocent. So,
what are people misconstruing or misunderstanding about domestic violence these days?
That it's not that serious. I didn't really take it serious. I was in school, I learned about domestic violence underground, learned about it now, working on my master's, and I didn't really take it that serious until it happened to my sister. And then I started learning about domestic violence in South Carolina, and I learned about women being hurt, and I see it from my clients being hurt by their men, and it's just the awareness.
What else should we be aware about when it comes to domestic violence in 2019?
I think that women need to be empowered, and anytime that a female has a friend who's in a relationship, she needs to check on that friend, make sure she's okay, take her out to lunch, let's hang out for a day, because some of these women, they get so caught up in these relationships, they're so isolated that they only seek the man for support, for love, and it's not always that good love. So definitely women empowerment, and I think also men needing counseling and getting that therapy that they need to help manage their anger.
And when you talk about domestic violence, you obviously talk about money. Where is the money as far as finding out what do we need to do next as far as domestic violence?
I have a friend who has a book called Be Your Own Baller, because I think most women, when they get in a relationship with a guy who's paying all the bills, he's going to do what he wants most of the time. And women need to feel empowered to make money themselves, be their own baller, make their own money. And a lot of women, they hear the music, how a man is paying for everything, paying for the house and everything, and he takes advantage of that. So I think that women need to feel empowered to make their own money and to let the man know, hey, I'm in charge too. I need my own money. I don't need your money. So that financial dependence is really one of the main reasons why women stay in these domestic violence relationships.
Davida Johnson, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome anytime.